Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Noelia, and please take a second to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss another video. Now, as you guys can see from the title, today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on sulfates. Again, this is another question that I get comments on all the time. I get whenever I talk about shampoos or when I talk about how much I enjoy shampooing my hair. One of the most common questions is, what do you think about sulfates? Do you use sulfates? Whatever. And yeah, so I have my own thoughts on sulfates and whether or not I use them. So if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts, you're going to learn a little bit about sulfates in this video too. So I'm going to share with you guys what sulfates are, what they do, and all of that. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, keep on watching. So for those of you who don't know what sulfates are, they're a type of chemical that are called surfactants. And what surfactants are used for, they're used for cleansing agents, foaming agents, which is why you'll typically find them in your shampoos, body care products, etc. So brands like to add sulfates to shampoos because it helps lather up really nicely. It does like a good deep cleanse. So, I mean, you're probably thinking, okay, so what's the issue? So the issue with sulfates is that they do too good of a job of cleansing. And I know that doesn't sound like a problem, but along with removing the bad oils and the buildup and all of that from your hair, it also removes all the good oils. So what that does is that it leaves your hair very dry, very brittle, and that's essentially what it does. It just does a really good job at cleansing your hair. It's gonna strip your hair from all the oils and all of that, which leaves your hair just really dry. So with that said, sulfates essentially just cleanse your hair a little too well, which is why there are other cleansing agents in the market, that of which I made a whole video on shampoo-wise, of ingredients that are less abrasive on the hair but do just as good at cleansing your hair as a sulfate would. So when it comes to using sulfates, I am not necessarily opposed to using them. I don't necessarily reach for them, but I'm not opposed to using them, and this is why. So just because I'll use a shampoo that contains a sulfate, with knowing what sulfates do and how drying they can be on the hair, what you need to think of is if you're gonna be using a shampoo that's gonna strip your hair, you're gonna wanna replenish your hair with moisture. The issue with sulfates is if you don't follow up with moisture, your hair is just gonna be dry, it's gonna be brittle, and I can see how that could be a recipe for disaster. But if you're someone who's aware, this product had sulfates in it, I need to replenish my hair with a deep conditioning mask or a deeply moisturizing conditioner. That's why typically shampoos that have sulfates in them, you'll see that their conditioner is very, very moisturizing, but it probably most likely will contain silicones and all the things, but it's typically a very rich moisturizing product. If you typically see a shampoo, the conditioner is most likely super duper moisturizing because brands are going to try to compensate for the stripping that the sulfates did and replenish the moisture with the conditioner. Like I said, I'm not going to be the one to look for a product to have a sulfate, but if I do want to test it out, I'll keep in mind, okay, this contains very abrasive stripping sulfates. I have to replenish my hair's moisture with maybe a nice mask or a nice conditioner or something along the lines of that. You always want to make sure that if you're going to be using something that's very stripping on the hair, that you follow up with something super moisturizing so that it balances the two. Yeah, so as far as my stance on sulfates, I'm not against them. I think that they are very effective, especially if you're somebody who uses very thick, heavy products on your hair, or if you're somebody who tends to use, you know, a lot of color and fun things on your hair, like color wax and stuff. Like sometimes you need a good clarify. There are, like I said, a ton of shampoos in the market that can give you a good clarify without having to use a sulfate. But if you ever just want like a good clarify, my hair tends to react really well to sulfates. Again, growing up, I used to use Pantene, I used to use herbal essence, things like that, and they worked really well in my hair. Like they don't have the best ingredients, as the curly girl method would tell you and curly girls would tell you, but what I will say is that those just worked amazing in my hair. Pantene is a brand that worked so good for me back in the day, and their shampoos, not all of them, but majority of them do contain sulfates. And I've never had an issue with it in the past because, again, the conditioner is very moisturizing and it, you know, has all the moisture ingredients that you'll look for when it comes to combating the dryness from the sulfates. You don't want to be using a shampoo with sulfates every day. So if you're someone who washes their hair every day, even if you're replenishing your hair with moisture every day, I don't recommend using a product with sulfate because it's just stripping. You know, no matter how much you replenish it, your hair is going to stay moisturized but then stripped again, and moisturized and then stripped, and I just find that that can lead to breakage in the long run. So if you are going to be using something with sulfate, like a shampoo with sulfate, I wouldn't suggest using it more than once a week, and even that's pushing it. But I mean, again, it's the balance. If you're gonna follow up with something moisturizing, you're good. But if you just leave it and your hair's gonna feel more dry, over time you'll notice the dryness in your hair. So yeah, when it comes to like deeply clarifying my hair, I don't often even use a clarifying shampoo, like a sulfate shampoo. I'm good with sulfate free. I find that they cleanse my hair just as good. But like I said, I'm not opposed to using them, because now that I'm more woke as far as like how these ingredients work and what's the point of them, it's all based on research. Like you really just gotta, you can, like I said in my previous video, you can watch this person and watch that person, and they can tell you don't use this, don't use that. I personally love to read research studies done on the ingredients. I like to read scientific articles on certain ingredients, because you'll see that in these articles they dive deep and do different studies, test it out in this way, that way, and it gives you different options, and it shows you how the product actually works over time. So when I first heard about the silicone thing, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna use silicones. But then one day, unexpectedly, I used a silicone-based conditioner, didn't even realize it had silicone in it, and I was like, this works really good in my hair. I'm gonna research this, because maybe it's not that bad. Turns out it's actually not that bad for you, and it's just knowing what type you have in your hair and how to remove it from your hair. So same thing goes with sulfates. It's all based on, you know, this is the ingredient that's in it, you know how harsh it could be on the hair and how stripping it could be. Just make sure you follow up with moisture, so that way you replenish your strands and they don't feel dry and brittle. My thing will always be, do your own research. I love reading research papers. I spent all my college years reading research papers, but I never enjoyed it in college because it was always topics I didn't care for. But when it comes to hair, skin, beauty, like I didn't even realize that they had scholarly articles on anything other than like the cytoplasm and mitochondria and placentas and all the craziness that we learned in schools, genetics and all the craziness. So I never realized that I mean, I knew that they existed, but I never tapped into that realm of scientific papers. So I like to read my own studies and kind of form my own opinion. You know, just like I did in school, I'm starting to do this now more in life. Like someone can share an opinion with me and I'll just nod my head and be like, all right. But I'll personally do my own research and, you know, find out for myself like what I feel. You know, I don't just go, okay, this is how that person feels, I feel that way too. Like I like to form my own opinion, and by doing that I like to do my own research and all of that. So that's why I always recommend you guys to do your own research, test out the product, see how it feels in your hair. If you don't find that it's doing anything negative to your hair and your hair actually reacts really well to it. Last time I actually used a sulfate based shampoo was actually the Matrix shampoo that I just recently reviewed. I really liked the way it felt in my hair. What I did also like is that it also contains like manuka honey inside the shampoo, so it was very, as stripping as it was, it didn't leave my hair dry and brittle, because it also contained some ingredients to like combat the dryness but still stripped it the way it needed to. But again, disclaimer, I am not a professional. I'm in no way, shape, or form a hair doctor, and I can't sit here and tell you that I know X, Y, and Z because I studied X, Y, and Z. No, like, yes, I studied biology in college, so I know how to read these articles and I know, you know, how they work, and that's why I go to them before I go to like a random Google website, because to me they're more reliable than just going to a regular schmegular Google website. But you know, Google also has good resources. You have to just know, because you can tell when something's written right and when it's just like someone's biased opinion. You know what I mean? So I always like to do my own research, because you just never know. But yeah, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on sulfates down below, and if this video changed your perspective on sulfates. I find that lately, like within these last few years, people are just they're forming their own opinions on ingredients and products and doing their own research and doing their own thing, and I really, really love it, because we used to live in an age where whenever the few curly influencers there were, we just did everything that they did. But now, the variety and the abundance of curly influencers that we have on the internet now, like there's so many different opinions out that people are able to kind of like test different things and formulate their own opinion based on their own studies, and I love it. I love that things are changing and we're not just following the curly girl method. Yes, I said it. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.